Hi everyone, and welcome to my home, but more importantly, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Brittany, and I am the recipe developer, food blogger, and photographer here at Brittany Breaks Bread. I could not be more excited to kick off my fall and holiday baking series, which will accompany my e-cookbook to celebrate my 4-year vlogging anniversary. In this series, we will be baking 5 of my favorite decadent and cozy treats that are near and dear to my heart. Some of these recipes are twists on classic holiday dishes. Other recipes are family classics inspired by my mom and my grandmom, dishes we'd make in the kitchen together during the holidays and would share at these huge family functions. And other recipes are recipes that I make for my own family in my own kitchen, and I share with my husband and my children to enjoy. I want to give a quick shout out to Duluth Trading Company, Bob's Red Mill, and Rodell for sponsoring a portion of this series. I will be talking about their amazing products soon to come, where you can get them and all the great stuff that you need to not only make these phenomenal recipes, but to also be fashionable in the kitchen. If you're wondering where you can find these recipes, they are all in my e-cookbook, which can be found at brittnybreaksbread.com. I'll be providing the link below. Without further ado, today we're kicking off the baking series by making one of my all-time favorite fall classics, pumpkin cupcakes. These are not your traditional cupcakes. They're stuffed and frosted with a cinnamon cream cheese buttercream. They have the softest texture that literally melt in your mouth, and they have that classic pumpkin spice flavor that just warms the soul. Let's grab all of your baking utensils and all of your ingredients and get started. All right, so we've got all of our ingredients together. First, we're gonna start off just simply by combining our dry ingredients. I've got a little bit of flour, some pumpkin spice, some cinnamon to add a little bit more of that warm flavor to the cupcakes, our leaveners, baking powder and baking soda. And then we're gonna add a little bit of salt because salt makes everything better. Even in sweet recipes, you still need just a pinch of salt. I'm gonna whisk everything together. And with this, we're just gonna set it aside and get started on our wet ingredients. So now I have a little bit of brown sugar and white sugar, and we are going to add our pumpkin puree to this. This is not to be confused with pumpkin pie filling. Do not use pumpkin pie filling. You will get a drastically different result. We want the canned pumpkin puree without any fillers or added sugar and spices or anything like that. We're just gonna add that to the sugar, and we're also gonna add our oil and our eggs. It's always so satisfying when the eggs come together correctly. And we're gonna whisk this together until all of the ingredients are incorporated, yes, but you also wanna make sure that all of the sugar dissolves. That makes it so that the cupcake is nice and soft as opposed to it being gritty. When the sugar hasn't fully dissolved, the cupcake will tend to be on the more chewy side, and we don't want that. We want that soft melt in your mouth texture that everyone loves. For about 2 minutes, it should begin to look nice and smooth. You shouldn't be able to see much of the sugar granules, and that's how you know you're on the right track. At this point, we're now going to add a little bit of sour cream to add to the richness of the cupcake and also add texture. And of course, it's a baking recipe, so you need a little bit of vanilla extract. We're going to add that in too. And simply just whisk this until the sour cream has dissolved into the mixture or whisked into the mixture. And it's nice and smooth. We don't want any lumps. It's a nice little workout, but you can also use a stand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment, or you can use an electric mixer as well, should you prefer that. I like to minimize the amount of dishes that I have to wash after the recipe's finished. So I do as much as I can by hand without needing to add too much equipment. Okay, so now we're going to fold in our dry ingredients. For this recipe, I'll be using Bob's Red Mill's unbleached white all-purpose organic flour. It's a premium baking flour, freshly milled using high-quality wheat, making for the most delectable breads, cakes, muffins, and of course, blondies. I'll also be using their baking powder and baking soda, which are my go-to leaveners for all of my baking needs. There's no aluminum, no weird aftertaste, just all clean ingredients. Head to Bob's Red Mill to shop their products and to find their local retailers. And while this is a super easy recipe, you want to make sure that you don't overmix once the dry ingredients have been added. As soon as flour touches liquid, gluten begins to form, and you don't want a very glutinous cupcake. That'll be tough, it'll be chewy. You want a soft, succulent, luxurious cupcake. And that being said, don't overmix your cupcake batter. It is critical not to overmix. You want to mix just until everything is combined and you don't have any patches of flour in your batter. So we're almost there. I would say this typically takes me, when I do it by hand, about 10 to 20 seconds. And we're really close, we're getting there. It's okay if there are little lumps. You don't want big lumps. It should look just like this. And there you go. A really simple, easy cupcake batter. So now we're gonna get out our cupcake liners and we're gonna line a 12 cup muffin pan. All right, so now we're gonna grab a 3 tablespoon ice cream scoop. I use this, you don't have to use it, but I use this to make sure that all of my cupcakes are the same size. As I said, it's about 3 tablespoons. So if you just wanna use a normal tablespoon and just add the batter into the muffin pan, you can do that. But we're just quickly going to scoop that in and fill each muffin cup about 2/3 of the way full. Be sure not to overfill each cup because then your cupcakes will look like muffins. And we don't want that. And now we're just gonna bake these for about 22 to 24 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. All right, so now we're gonna get started on the cinnamon cream cheese frosting. I've got a couple tips and tricks as to how to get a stable cream cheese frosting that isn't runny, that is pipeable, and is really easy to make. So first off, we're going to make sure that we whip our butter for about 2 to 3 minutes prior to adding any of the other ingredients. This is just to incorporate some air and fluffiness into the buttercream. So that's where we're gonna start. I'm gonna add a room temperature butter to our stand mixer, fitted with the paddle attachment. And we're gonna whip this on low speed at first, gradually increasing to medium speed as it becomes pale and fluffy with time. All right, so now that the butter is nice and whipped, it's a beautiful pale yellow color, which is exactly what we're looking for. We're gonna add in our room temperature cream cheese. And just another tip here, you wanna make sure you're using full fat cream cheese. Don't skimp here. This is not the recipe to be health conscious. So you really wanna make sure you're using full fat ingredients to get the most silky texture possible. And we're gonna also whip this for about another 2 to 3 minutes as well, until the butter and the cream cheese are nice and incorporated together. All right, so now I'm just scraping down the sides of the bowl to make sure that the cream cheese and the butter are well incorporated. And they are. There are no chunks of butter that are like stuck to the bottom of the bowl. There's no random chunks of cream cheese anywhere. So now we're just gonna add in our powdered sugar. I'm gonna add all of it in there. Don't worry about adding 1 cup at a time. Some cinnamon. And then this is my trick. This is meringue powder. And we're adding about a tablespoon of meringue powder. And this is just to stabilize the cream cheese, to make it nice and fluffy, but also pipeable, and make sure it doesn't get runny, because nobody wants a runny buttercream. So we're gonna add about a tablespoon of meringue powder. This isn't necessary. If you can't find meringue powder at your grocery store, you don't have to have it, but I do highly, highly, highly recommend adding it to your buttercream. And we're gonna add a tiny pinch of salt, just to bring all those flavors together. And then we're just gonna mix. Again, start on low, because you don't want everything coming out at you at once. But as it comes together, we're gonna just slightly increase it to medium-low speed. Yep, and as soon as you hear the, what is it called? As soon as you hear the blender slowing down, that means things are starting to come together. You can begin to increase the speed to a nice medium speed. And that'll come together really quickly. While that's mixing, just add in a little bit of vanilla. And as things come together, I do like to scrape down the sides of the bowl again, just to make sure that everything is getting to know each other really well. Everything's mixing in, and you can already see a very sturdy, velvety cream cheese frosting is forming. It's really pretty. Okay. And we're just gonna beat this for another 3 to 5 minutes. So now I'm just adding a little bit of the frosting to a piping bag with the star tip piping tip, and we're just going to use this to pipe the buttercream on top of our cupcakes, as well as to fill it in the middle as well, which creates like a really nice I guess mouthfeel when you bite into the cupcake, because you've got the softness of the cupcake, you've got the luxurious texture of the cream cheese buttercream. It's just a great cupcake all around. Alrighty, so all of our pumpkin cupcakes are out of the oven. They've cooled. Mandatory step that I didn't mention previously, you have to let these cool, because when you put the frosting on top, whether you're filling them or putting the frosting on top, it's mandatory that they're at room temperature, because if not, it'll melt and it'll be all runny, and nobody wants that. So they've come to room temperature, and we're ready to pipe the filling into the middle and then put it on top. I'm using this handy dandy tool I found on Amazon. You do not need to go to Amazon and buy this. You can use a knife, you can even use a spoon just to scoop out a piece of the middle and fill it. But I thought this was cool, so I bought it anyway. It's a lot of fun to use. So I'm very quickly just going to insert this little tool into the center of the cupcake. I'm gonna do a little shimmy, and it's gonna make a nice little divot in the middle of the cupcake. We're gonna take our piping bag and add a little bit of filling in the middle, so it looks just like that. And then we're going to put the top of the cupcake on, well, I don't know, what is this called? The piece of the cupcake on top of the filling. And then we're just gonna pipe a little bit of filling on top, or a little bit of buttercream on top. And you can add as much as or little as you like of the buttercream. I personally I'm pretty big on buttercream. I love having a cupcake that has a ton of icing. Some people, that's not their thing. It's mine, however, so I like to pipe a generous amount of buttercream on top. And yeah, this is it. This is our pumpkin cupcake. And you know what's even better? When you take a bite into it, you can see the filling. So let's do it. That is so good. It's perfectly spiced. The texture is so soft. The cupcake itself is sweet, but not overly sweet because the buttercream is sweet on its own. So it's like the perfect complement. You got all your fall flavors. That cinnamon cream cheese buttercream on top is just bananas. And it's easy to make. These are made in under an hour. Put together the cupcake batter, make the icing, put the two together, and you're done. These are the perfect treat for fall. And if you're not making these, what are you doing? What are you doing? This recipe can be found in my e-cookbook at BrittanyBreaksBread.com. Be there, be square, run, don't walk, and go get this e-cookbook so you can make these cupcakes. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.